Friends, sometime back I had actually written about why, in certain cases of toric implantation, you still see a significant amount of residual astigmatism. And in this article, actually, I highlighted something which is often overlooked, and that is basically the residual astigmatism may be a factor of IUL tilt and decentration, and this is often not actually, well realized. Now, let me first explain what do we mean by IUL tilt and decentration. So here I will take the help of this study by Chen and co-authors, wherein they start out by differentiating between the tilt and decentration here. While tilt is basically an angular difference between the IUL axis and the standard axis or pupil axis, decentration is basically a distance, that is a chord distance, a vertical distance between the IUL center and the standard axis. Now, this standard axis could be pupillary axis. This standard axis could be also, an axis going through the corneal vertex. But whatever it is, actually, the IUL tilt is an angle, while IUL decentration is basically a distance between the IUL center and the axis that you are actually taking in reference of. So, in this article I had written some time back, I highlight how IUL tilt and decentration actually can lead to a residual astigmatism here. And one of the studies I have quoted over here is the Vaegge study. Now, in Vaegge study, actually, Vaegge and co-authors showed us that when IULs were tilted or decentered by 10 degrees, the resultant astigmatism increased significantly to zero point 0.4 to zero point 0.5 degrees. So that's basically the effect. 10 degrees of tilt led to around zero point 0.4 to zero point 0.5 diopter of astigmatism. So let me explain you the Vaegge study, which thoroughly, kind of evaluated the impact of tilt on astigmatism with toric IOLs here. If you go into this figure, you will see that this amount of astigmatism that is created with IOL tilt, it's dependent upon the power of the toric model. So a 28 diopter IOL, when tilted, will create more amount of residual astigmatism than a 16 diopter IOL. If you also go into the figure 2 here, it is also dependent upon the toric model that you are, not only power but also the toric model. So T3 will, when decentered or when tilted, will actually lead to less amount of astigmatism than a T6 model. That is what actually you find over here. Now, coming back to my article, the Toric IOL and the missing link, you can always use the search button over here and access the article. So, in a recent study at the JCRS, in May 2025, Khalil Haider and co-authors kind of showed us that you can use the optical biometry to predict what kind of tilt or decentration your patient may have, and accordingly you can plan on the toric IOL, right? So let me explain you this. This is basically a page from the Lensstar here, and if you go into this iris pericenter and the pupil pericenter, you will see these x and y coordinates over here, and the x and y coordinates kind of gives you an understanding about the decentration in the eye. So the x and y coordinates of the iris pericenter kind of shows you the decentration of the visual axis compared to the iris, the optical axis or the iris pericenter, while the pupil pericenter is basically showing you the decentration of the visual axis, in relation to the pupil barycenter, the pupillary axis over here. Now, if this two, you regardless of the plus or minus, if you just add this x and y coordinates and you see that it is less than zero point 0.5, then you are okay. But if this, is more than zero point 0.5, if it is 0.7 or zero point 0.8, then you know that there is a major decentration in the eye, and there would be some amount of residual astigmatism post the toric implantation. Well, I will wind up this, this topic by saying here that currently the toric calculators kind of gives you the toric model that needs to be implanted at a particular axis based on the K1 and K2 inputs that you actually provide. But probably in future we will find kind of innovation in the historic calculators which actually will also take your inputs of x and y coordinates which I showed you from the iris or pupil barycenter, and they will account for the decentration of the eye and provide you the access of implantation. That I hope that this will be done in the future, because this is an important subject. X and y coordinates, decentrations in the eye can lead to residual astigmatism, and this must be also taken into account by the toric calculators. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Keep following my YouTube channel for more interesting videos and my website quickguide.org. Thank you very much.